Welcome to Reading with Nana, and hi to my returning friends. Today's story is entitled X Marks the Spot. The author or the writer is Julian Fleischer, and the illustrator, the one who draw the pictures, actually in black and white in this one, is Kristen Sora. Chapter 1 A Drive to the Mountains. The road twisted and turned, getting higher and higher. Jamal stared straight ahead, frowning. His mom was driving the car and was humming happily to herself. Are we there yet? Jamal asked, crossing his arms across his chest. Almost, honey, his mom replied. Look out the window. Isn't it beautiful? Jamal didn't answer, but he did look. Out of his mom's window, all he could see was a rising rocky cliff. Out of his own window, the cliff dropped down, and all Jamal could see was the road winding below him. Below, there were green fields. A few houses and farms were scattered about. The city was a long way away. It felt like they had been driving forever. They were driving up into the mountains to spend a week at a ranch. His mom had lived at this ranch when she was a little girl. Some vacation, Jamal thought to himself. All of his friends were doing cool things this summer. Joy was going to an amusement park. Ernesto was spending a whole month with his family at the beach. Vicky had just gotten 5 new computer games and was planning to spend the entire summer racking up high scores. Jamal and his mother were going to spend a crummy week in a crummy mountains. Isn't that exciting? Jamal's mom asked. I love the mountains. What's so exciting about a bunch of old rocks? Jamal asked. Oh, don't worry, his mom said, patting his arm. There'll be lots of things to do. Name one, said Jamal. You'll see, his mom replied. It's very different from the city. Where we live is cluttered with all those buildings. There are cars and people wherever you look. It's not like that here in the mountains where you can breathe and think and relax. Jamal didn't want to relax. He just wanted to sit on the stoop with his friends. In fact, he wished he were sitting anywhere except in a car on the way to the boring mountains. Hey, look at that, Jamal's mom said. She pointed out her window. The cliffs had leveled off to a green field. A group of horses was in the field. Jamal never had seen horses before. They were amazing. They looked powerful and muscular, and they were bigger than he had expected. That's one thing we'll do, his mom said. We'll ride horses this week. Jamal didn't say anything. He didn't know if he liked the idea of riding a horse. What if he fell off? What if the horse bit him with those big teeth? Or kicked him with his horseshoe? Just what exactly had his mom gotten them into? Chapter 2 A Map to Surprises. When they finally arrived at the ranch, Jamal's mom parked the car beside a big wooden building. In front of the building was a yard surrounded by smaller buildings. That big building is the barn, his mom said. We'll be staying in one of the cabins. We'll have it all to ourselves. They got out of the car and crossed the yard. 3 men in overalls passed by. They were carrying tools and looked dirty. Hey, Olivia, one of the men called out. Hello, Livy, said another of the men. It's been a long time. It sure has, Olivia said. This is my boy, Jamal. We'll see you all for dinner. Sure thing, the third man said. Pleased to meet you, son. Why did he call you Livy? Jamal asked when the men were out of sight. I knew them when I was a little girl, Olivia said. They work here. It looks like they're getting ready to fix the barn. I remember doing it when I was a girl. You fixed a barn? Jamal asked, his mouth wide open. Oh, sure, Olivia said, laughing. I helped to build that barn. No way, said Jamal. Way, said his mom playfully. I used to help out with all sorts of things. Jamal knew his mom grew up on a ranch, but he couldn't believe she knew how to build a barn. Then he thought about how strong her hands were. This is ours, his mom said as they reached one of the cabins. And now I have a surprise for you. Olivia handed Jamal a piece of paper. On it were pictures of houses, trees, and water. There were X's beside some of the pictures, connected by a dotted line. I drew this from memory, said Olivia. It's like a treasure map. If we follow the dotted line, we'll have a lot of fun. And there's a surprise at the end. Old Goober. Let's go, cried Jamal. Hold on a second, his mom said. She began filling Jamal's backpack with stuff from home. Why don't you go put your bathing suit on? Jamal raced into the bathroom. He put his bathing suit on under his shorts. When he returned, his mom was ready to go. Okay, she said as they walked outside. Look at the map. Where do we go first? Jamal took out the map. At first, he didn't know what to make of it. I get it, he said. We're at the first X. The dotted line goes between our cabin and the one beside us. Then it goes toward the circle thing. Holding the map out in front of him, Jamal began to walk. He pretended there were dotted lines on the ground in front of him. Ahead, he could see a round fenced in area. Inside the fence were horses. This looks like the second X, he said. That's right, his mom replied. She made a clucking noise with her tongue. A brown and white horse came trotting over. This is old Goober, Olivia said. She fished a carrot out of the backpack. He's going to be your horse for the week. Why don't you try feeding him? Jamal took the carrot, his hands shaking. Old Goober gently took the carrot from Jamal's hand. His teeth and tongue were huge. There's no way I'm riding that horse, thought Jamal. Old Goober stuck his head through the fence. Jamal felt the horse nuzzle his arm and he jumped back. His mom laughed. Come on, let's find the next X. It looks like the dotted line follows some kind of road, Jamal said as he pointed to a dirt trail that led away from the horses. Is it this path? Let's find out, his mom replied. They started down the path. Ahead of them, Jamal could see a forest. He could see the map that his mom had drawn a group of trees. The third X was on the other side of the trees. It's this way, Jamal shouted. Come on! He ran into the forest. Olivia walked through the trees. She felt their leaves and needles. These ones with needles are called evergreens. There are also maple and oak and ash trees. You can tell them apart by their leaves. Jamal marveled that his mom knew so many things. Who would have thought she knew the names of trees? Jamal and his mom followed the trail out of the forest and then started walking up a steep hill. It's hard to breathe up here, Jamal said. He was panting a little. That's the mountain air, his mom explained. The higher we go, the thinner the air gets. They finally reached a pile of big rocks. Farther below them, at the bottom of a cliff wall, was a river. Jamal looked at the map. We must be at the third X, he said. But the next X looks like it's down there where the river is. How do we get to it? It must be 20 feet down. Well, I guess we just have to climb, Olivia said. Jamal's mouth dropped open. Then he watched his mom fearlessly start to climb down the cliff wall. Supermom. Okay, it's your turn, Jamal's mom called up when she reached the bottom. I can't do it, Jamal called back. Sure you can, his mom shouted up to him. Just lean into the wall. Feel with your feet for rocks to stand on. Feel with your fingers for holes. But you should let your legs do most of the work. Jamal followed his mom's directions. He found that he leaned forward and moved slowly. There was no danger of falling. When he reached the bottom, his arms of his mother scooped him up. That was great, she exclaimed. You're a very good climber. Jamal just shrugged, but inside he felt wonderful. So this river is the next X? That's right, his mom confirmed. They checked the map and followed the river downstream. After a while, the river opened up into a small lake. In the middle of the lake was a wooden raft. Jamal looked at the map. The next X is in the center of the lake, he said. Is it that raft? It sure is. Race you there and back, his mom shouted. She and Jamal took off their outer clothes. They rushed into the water wearing their bathing suits. Olivia swam powerfully out to the raft. Jamal followed. He touched the raft and started back to shore. He was panting for breath when he reached the edge of the lake. You won, Jamal said. You're a fast swimmer. I'm a lot bigger than you, his mom said, but you'll be beating me soon enough. They dried off with towels Olivia had brought in the backpack. Then they looked at the map again. The final X, Jamal said. It looks like it's back at the barn. That's where we'll have our surprise, his mom said. And we're just in time. It's beginning to get dark. They hurried along the path marked by the dotted line. When they reached the barn, Jamal picked inside. The barn was cluttered with bales of hay, tools, 2 trucks, and a lawnmower. A bunch of wooden planks were piled on top of each of them. What's the surprise? Jamal asked. His mom pulled a little bag of dry dog food out of the backpack. She tossed a hand of nuggets up into the air. What are you doing? Jamal asked. You'll see, Olivia said. She threw another handful up toward the sky. Something swooped through the air. What was that? Yelped Jamal. His mother tossed more dog food in the air. More little creatures swooped over their head. Then again, more food, more swooping. Finally, Jamal could see what the creatures were. Bats! Jamal screamed. For a moment, he was disgusted. What if they bit him and sucked his blood? But then he looked at his mom and saw that she was laughing and spinning around as she fed the bats. He knew he had nothing to be afraid of. This was my favorite thing to do when I was little, his mom said. For some reason, they love dog food. They spot it with their sonar and grab it right out of the air. Here, take some and try. For a long while, Jamal and his mom stood outside in the twilight and fed the bats. Jamal thought that this was just about the most fun he had ever had. Well, we better get into dinner and then hit the sack, Olivia said. We have a big day of horseback riding tomorrow. Will you show me how? Jamal asked. Of course, his mom replied. She put her arm around him. Mom, he said, looking to her face, I think you're pretty cool for a mom. They headed back arm in arm to their cabin. Jamal was a little bit tired, but he was not in the least bit bored. I hope you enjoyed this story. Push like or subscribe. Until next time.